Are you a woman who is ready to take control of her life and achieve anything she wants? In this podcast, you will find the inspiration and motivation you need to become an empowered and successful woman. Hi, my name is Laura Hearn, and I'm so excited for the new season of the Empowered Modern Woman podcast. This season is for women who are fed up with being held back by society's expectations. We're going to talk about everything from career advice to health and fitness tips to help you live your best life. So if that's something that interests you, make sure to hit subscribe and to tune in every week for each of our new episodes. Hey everyone, I am so excited for this week's episode of the Empowered Modern Woman podcast. Not podcasts. Oh my goodness. We have Kelsey Knutson on as a guest today. She is absolutely amazing. Her story is going to blow your mind, but she is a hair salon owner turned business coach. And she is obsessed with helping businesses achieve success without burnout. The main thing is that, she loved what she was doing as a hair salon owner, but she started putting work before herself, and it got to a point where she literally fainted on the job and had to leave her coworker to finish her client's hair service. Like mid-hair service, she passed out from burnout. And from that moment on, she started putting herself first and filling her own cup before pouring into anyone else's, and has built a six-figure business from doing that and showing others how to do it themselves. So thank you so much, Kelsey, for being here. How are you doing today, lovely?
I'm good. I need to add like an asterisk to that, which is I'm constantly a work in progress, new level, new devil. And so I think that self-care piece and why I'm so passionate about it is it's something I still struggle with, have not fainted since. But, that tendency to always put others first. If you're a service provider, I feel like you naturally kind of do that. So I care because the stuff I help people with is stuff I needed and continue to need. Just wanted to add that
in. and you're so right?
Yeah.
Last night, I did a pop-up mini masterclass in one of my really great friends' communities. And that was something that I had to remind everyone. Like, I'm not perfect. I go through chapters of spiral of like organized chaos and self-doubt.
Yeah.
But it's about being able to rein it in and having that community around you, having amazing, awesome, badass people around you that's like, hey, you're awesome, and remind you you're on the right path and help remind you to do those things to take care of yourself. Prime example today, I went on a 30-minute walk with my dog.
Love it.
Just to get outside and breathe. Because if you've been following me on social media lately, my life is spiraling into chaos right now, but I'm still showing up, and so is Kelsey. So
Yep.
Kelsey, thank you. Thank you again for being here, for having this time together. I know that you're going to provide so much insight to, all the women that tune in that are looking for, how do I do these things without burnout? And it's just going to provide so much value to them. So let's turn the pages back a little bit to when you fainted mid-hair service. Like,
Yeah.
what happened?
It's funny. So when I have a story, then I'll bring it back to that story, which is I'm a business coach now, have a podcast. I love to help people. When I tell that to people, I realize a lot of people are business coaches. It's very trendy right now. And so I'm like, what makes me different? Why do I care? How do I provide value? Like, why me? And when I really looked in the archive of my life, that moment was so pivotal because it was my wake up call. And I think it's important to know that. And so what literally happened in the moment, I had coffee for lunch, like every good hairstylist does. If you're here, you know. And it wasn't like I was trying to self-sabotage, but I just didn't prioritize me. I didn't realize if I charge my batteries, I can provide a better service for my clients. My brain was not processing things that way. And so I was doing a color service. Like I said, coffee for lunch, put the color on. As I'm doing it, I'm sweating and I can feel, the room just kind of doing this. And I was like, uh-oh, I need to go sit down. So I literally like crawled to the back, like walked professionally away from the client. Once I'm out of eye shot, then I'm crawling to the bathroom and then I passed out in the bathroom. Had to call my boyfriend. He literally had to come pick me up, left my car there. My clients took care of her. She maintained as a client, which I think is like very kudos
I mean,
to my
that's a
team.
testament to you. Like,
Yeah. She had no idea. They were just like, oh, Kelsey had an emergency. Like, she had no idea I was like literally
dying.
dying. Yeah.
Oh
And
my
I
goodness.
came home, I slept all day. I woke up the next morning and I was like, I have no one to blame but myself. Like, I have no one to blame but myself. I'm not working out. I'm not drinking enough water. I'm definitely not eating enough food just because, oh yeah, one more client, a little bit more money, one more client, a little bit more money. And I got to this place where total burnout. And I started to slowly realize at that point, the more I invest in me, whether that's like financially hiring a coach or instead of, doing another meeting, going on a walk, like you just mentioned, the more I take care of me, the more money I make, really is what it came down to. And that's why I'm so passionate about it, that I believe you can achieve your dreams. I don't think you ever have the perfect work-life balance, but I think you can strive to prioritize you first and the rest will come. And that was my aha moment of, ooh, I'm going to do things a little bit differently.
Yes. I mean, I didn't pass out. But
Good for you.
I didn't pass out.
Yeah.
But I had a similar moment in my career of working in a very high stress industry, financial services. And I
Right.
still am in this industry, which is not a happy place to be right now with the state of the economy. But I worked in a very toxic place.
Mm.
And I just thought that was normal. And, mental breakdowns in the office, getting so mad but afraid to yell that I was just crying.
Yeah.
And it took, this moment, this aha moment, like, this is not okay. Why am I putting myself through this for money?
Yeah.
Taking on clients on Saturdays because that's easier for them. Taking on, evening appointments in person in the office 30 minutes away, doing all of these extra things, because if I can close this other client and this other plan and this other thing, then I'll get this much more money. Chasing. And I like to call it now manifestation through desperation.
Ooh, that's good. Yeah.
Because that's when you're just motivated by that near-term thing, not this higher purpose that those of us have hit a wall of mental exhaustion or mental breakdown, that we realize there's something bigger than ourselves. And why are we beating ourselves up over something so minuscule, right?
Totally. Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. I've been in this like super reflective place again because my life is chaos.
Yeah. That's life right now.
And how do you now, in your new life since passing out, manage those moments of feeling overwhelmed and that you're edging towards this place where you're pushing yourself too far? How do you scale yourself back or check yourself?
Yeah, that's a great question because, like I said, honest work in progress. I think it's important to be transparent about that. So even though I had that wake up call, I still have to check myself. So I think a couple things. I think having the self-awareness to recognize your tendencies, right? I call it your default mode. When you are handed an extra dose of just life stuff, that is when you're going to fall into your default mode. You're going to do the things you naturally do, your tendencies, your habits that stick are going to stick. The ones that don't are going to leave. And I think if you just take the time to really check yourself and be able to recognize like, hey, this actually, things are crazy right now, but I still go on a walk every day because I know that helps me. So awesome that little thing stuck. But maybe you're drinking a big water bottle and your goal is to drink more water. And ideally you want to drink 4 of these a day and you realize life's crazy right now. I'm only drinking half. Then it's worth like, ooh, how can I start to make those micro tiny adjustments to plug that back in? So the self-awareness piece is key. And that just takes, like you were talking about your reflection, that just takes a day of like really sitting in it. What am I my best self? How can I set myself up for success, especially if you're a business owner, so I can serve others? Because it's a lot to show up. And you and I were chatting about this before we hit record, but you, as a business owner and a podcast host, because I have one too, you get to show up through all the seasons. Therefore, if that's like a non-negotiable that has to happen for your business to continue to move, what are some things that you know for sure, bare minimum, you need to be your best self? Even if maybe you're like 85%, but you're still able to turn the mic on and be here. And I think when you know that about yourself, you have those constant moments of check-in, and then you give yourself a little grace. Maybe it's like, you know what, gym's not happening today. That's okay. But that walk is. really being able to prioritize those things. Literally, I recently was sick and totally just emotionally exhausted. Couldn't like get my creative brain on. I just succumbed to the Netflix because I knew like I just couldn't do it. And being okay in those moments where it has to be, but have that check-in to be like, okay, how am I feeling today? Oh, today I have a little more energy. Okay, of all the 5 to 10 different things that help me out, maybe I'm just picking one. I think if you try to change overnight, you're just not going to have those things stick and be consistent, which is you're looking at life change versus just, checking off what to do for the current moment.
I 100% agree. And every time you said check yourself, all I could think of like check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yes.
And as much of that like slang from us millennials, it's true though, because you
Right.
have to check in. You have to put these self-check moments in before you wreck yourself, before you have a breakdown, before you burn out, before you pass out mid-service.
Yeah.
Like you have to have these check-ins. And for myself, those of you that follow me, that I had a house fire, I went on vacation, I had a death in my family, and it just keeps spinning. There's more and more things keep building up, and I have had to put in moments of like, okay, I'm gonna remember to keep doing the walk because the dog also needs to lose some pounds. So the walk is good for everybody involved here. I need to make sure, I'm drinking my water because that helped me feel better, more energy, more positive. So having those little check-ins is important. And again, like you said, it's not about this magic wand, aha, overnight, you're a new human. That doesn't exist. And if anyone says like overnight, we're going to make you this,
Run.
Run.
Yeah.
Because it's personal development is a process that we are all doing. We're just at different places in the spectrum. And sometimes you get held up every once in a while because you got to work through some stuff. Sometimes things are heavier than others. And you guys, I'm not trying to be vague, but it's just not completely my business to say everything that's going on. So like, just bear with me. I'll get there. We'll get there where I'll tell you guys everything that I'm going through. Still processing. But for you, Kelsey, you do these check-ins for yourself. You help others with their check-ins and keeping them self-accountable. But what do you see yourself, or where do you see yourself, when you look forward a year, 5 years? What do you want your business to continue to be able to do, or like the next level? Because you have the podcast, you have the coaching. What else are you doing for yourself in your business?
Yeah, Kelsey, 5 years out, let's just say, is speaking on stage, leading workshops, leading conferences, because my inner why, what lights me up the most, is inspiring people to take action on their dreams. And to do that, I have to talk to a lot of people, right? If I can get a couple people around me to do that, it's awesome, but I just want more and more and more. My biggest fear in life is feeling like I didn't take advantage of all of the opportunities presented to me. And I also kind of project that on people, maybe to a toxic point where if you tell me your dream or goal, I'm that friend or coach that's coming alongside you, checking in. How's the podcast? Why haven't you launched it? You got to do it. People have to hear from you. This is such a cool idea. Let me help you. That's how I'm wired. Therefore, the direction I'm going has to line up with that why. And the reason I know that is I recently did my why statement. If you're familiar with Simon Sinek, he has the Start With Why book, which is great. But a lot of people don't know there's actually a part 2. That's a workbook that you have someone come and facilitate a workshop. It's a 4-day intensive one-on-one, or you can do it as a business to understand your why statement. And that to me was like full cards on the table. This person who was doing it with me didn't know me. So there's no bias there. Highest highs, lowest lows. What's the common theme in Kelsey's life? And that's how I arrived to my why. Therefore, again, impact. So I need to talk to as many people as possible. How I'm doing that currently is I'm saying yes to the things that just feel exciting and really line up with that. And I'm saying no to things that don't serve me. And I know that sounds really like woo and obvious maybe to some people, but if you don't do the work now to really understand that, I call it like finding your internal compass. Like if you don't establish what that is, especially if you're entering the coaching, consulting, education space, it's so easy to get distracted because there's so many different ways to do what we do in this area. To bring people up to speed, after my fainting experience, I went and opened my own hair salon. So I did that for a while, built my own business in that industry. And then now I do the coaching stuff, both from a place of having built my own business, but also having a degree in entrepreneurship. So I kind of marry the two together. But this is like a whole new world. The coaching space is it's the wild, wild west. Like there's
wild.
There's everyone and their mom and their cousin and their aunt is a coach now. And B, not everyone is going to get, like you were kind of mentioning earlier, transformation overnight, like run. There's people giving bad advice out there. Or maybe they actually don't really care about you realizing your dreams. Maybe they actually just want you to buy their course for $97. So I think really making sure, again, the offers I have line up with where I want to go, being true to who I am, and just continuing to grow and evolve for that. And if you were to look at all the offers and all the things I'm connected to right now, and now you know my 5-year projection, it checks out. It makes sense. It lines up.
And that's like, I love how you went like 5 years, and this is like how we're doing this. This is the game plan, because that's so important. And it's so right about how, you know, everybody's cousin, aunt, uncle, whoever is a coach these days. And as a consumer, right, because coaches should have coaches to help them along their personal journeys, is that vetting process. Because there's so many people. Like, what are their real qualifications? Like, what brought them to coaching, right? You have real world business experience running your hair salon. You've experienced the burnout on a very high extreme. You've done this and you have overcome it. And now you are helping other people go through this transformation and rise to the occasion and be a better, truer version of themselves by having a deeper understanding of themselves. Right. And that's why we vibe so well, because my life, you know, I still run my financial practice. I changed firms. I found places. I have my own practice and it's successful. I've won awards and all of these amazing things because I found a place and a system and things that served my greater purpose, not someone else's purpose, and not just serving the chase of money. And that success I have accomplished there, like you in the hair salon business, has inspired me to help others overcome the fear, the self-doubt, the guilt, all of those things that strangle us.
Yeah.
And cause all of those nasty things like burnout and giving up. Because that's the worst thing anyone can do, is just giving up on themselves and their dreams. I just like, would you guys understand, the first time Kelsey and I talked, like it was like a complete fangirl session between the both of us of like, yes, what you said. And what I love about Kelsey is not only does it like, I'm like, yeah, I do the same thing, but we serve different people. Like same, but different, because everybody has their own version of them, of their ideal clients. But that's the beauty of this industry, coaching and public speaking and motivational speaking, is that we can collaborate on our podcast. I'm going to be on hers too. And furthering these conversations to help more people.
Yeah. Because I can't do it alone.
That would be insane. If we tried to do it on our own. And speaking of how insane that would be, what are some of the challenges, Kelsey, that you're facing? Not just, necessarily like the regular business challenges, but as you look at your 5-year goal and being on stages and leading conferences, what are the challenges or concerns you have for yourself as you reach for that success?
Oh my gosh, I could do a whole TED talk on all the things I would change if I were to start coaching today. Seriously, I could go on, but a couple things. I can't do it on my own. Scalability at this point for me, the demand is higher than the capacity I have. So hiring the right support, I can't even tell you how many different things I've outsourced for the wrong reasons. Back to that mindset piece, boy, is that at the core of everything, right? I think when you step into coaching, and again, I know this won't apply to everyone, but people often think, Social media, stressful. If I could pay someone to just do it for me, I would, and all my problems are solved. No, because you have to manage that person.
Yeah.
And you still have to be the visionary of the messaging, and you still have to understand what you're launching and promoting and not promoting. And that has to all still come from your brain. So now, on top of you visualizing it, you also have to be a leader in your business. And that's why in the beginning, I was like, business 101. Let's look at profit and loss. Let's, save money for taxes. And when I started doing that work for people, let's write your social media plan. When I started doing that work for people, I realized like all of it starts with the mind. It all starts with a mindset and stepping away from I'm Kelsey, the hairstylist, to I'm Kelsey, a business owner. And I think once you can make that mental jump, then we can dig into the other stuff. But until then, anything I say about the systems and the logistical stuff will never stick, because at the end of the day, you don't have the foundation to absorb it and implement it. So the struggles I have today are the same ones you might be having, just on a different scale. So it's literally, like I said, finding the right person to hire, and hiring from a place of abundance, meaning I know I have clarity on my vision, I know where I'm going, and I know exactly what I'm looking for, and I'm prepared to lead that person. I think that's the biggest piece that people miss. So I'm actively in conversation. I'm probably onboarding somebody in the next couple of weeks to help support kind of on the back end stuff. Another thing is, not only do I have my coaching business, I have my podcast. I actually host another podcast, and I actually have a women networking group called, get it, Empower PNW. I know, right? And I have lots of goals and dreams. It's co-founded with 2 other women, which is amazing, but it honestly has exploded since we launched on kind of accident. Like, perfect time, perfect formula of right business model, people need it in the right community. And now we're at this place where it's just getting, every week we get more people applying, and we don't have the systems in place to support this growth. So that's another area where I'm like, gosh, there's so much opportunity here to finalize some systems. So a lot of my struggles are systems and getting right people in the right seat so I can stay in my zone of genius, which is similar problems I had in the hair salon at certain points, similar problems I had in the beginning of my coaching business versus now. And so I think that those are the biggest things. Mentally, I'm tougher than I've ever been. And I just see my life in that 5 year. It's like a crystal clear vision. I'm not so worried about how I get there. It's just making sure I'm doing it again in that sustainable way, so I don't hit burnout. I don't want to faint on stage. That'd be like terrifying.
Yeah, that would be terrifying. Sustainability is so important.
Yeah.
And I think people get jaded by all of, the advertisements that pop up in our feeds about like scale to this in 7 days. And you're like, but for how long? Like, sure, you can have a great month, but is that repeatable?
Mm-hmm.
And how much work did it take for you to like get there? And when you talk about adding people to your support staff, like, I want people to understand that this isn't a dream come true land when you start managing other people, because all of us, every individual, we have a zone of genius, just like Kelsey said. And when we want to put our dreams and this vision into action, you have to understand you are incapable of literally doing it all. Like, you can start. I encourage everyone to start understanding all the pieces of the puzzle before you hire people and delegate.
Yeah.
But know that the first couple people you hire probably aren't going to stay forever. Because as you learn and grow and develop and evolve as an individual and as a business, you'll realize that some of the people that you hired in the beginning, when you didn't have the funds and the things available, you're going to potentially outgrow them. And you have to find the right people that will grow with you and your business and continue to support. And there's a lot of trial and error through the delegation process. And that's one of the things that people don't like talking about, is that ugly part of being a business leader, is making those decisions of like, I really like this person, but it's not working out for the business anymore. Yes. I mean, that's probably the crappiest parts in my own business, is really enjoying a person, but having to have that conversation of like, this isn't working out business-wise.
Yeah. Or owning it if it's on you for not leading or onboarding properly. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot to unpack there. And I agree with the possibility that you might hire the wrong person at the wrong time, and there's nowhere to point the finger but you. Like, you're the boss at the end of the day.
Yeah, it sucks because nobody likes that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this was my fault. But
Right.
sometimes it could be the right person, like you said, at the wrong time,
Yes.
or right time, wrong person. And at the end of the day, it's your own darn fault because you made the decision to hire someone
Right.
and you didn't do enough due diligence for yourself or for that person to make sure that it was the best fit for that moment in time. And outgrowing, like growing pains in business, Lord, I've experienced that where you're growing faster, right? You have support staff, but you're growing, like you said, like you have these things like growing and expanding and you're trying to keep up with it, right? Like it
Mm-hmm.
can be so exciting, but also makes you want to put your face through glass
Mm-hmm.
because everything's working out, like in growing and your vision's coming true before your eyes. But now you're trying to keep it moving forward by placing that support and the infrastructure behind it, like crap, because this is working. So
Yeah.
as you are doing that yourself right now, you talked about the communities that you have in addition to podcasts and your coaching business. Um, how do you keep your head on straight?
That's a great
Or
question.
at least allow it
Yeah.
to kind of appear like your head is on straight.
Right. So before I answer the question, I want to go back to something we were talking about, which is I think people look for a shortcut for the work sometimes, whether that's like hiring someone to make it more efficient or hiring a coach, taking a course, that ultimately at the end of the day, there's certain activities in your business you have to just do the work. And one of those things, if again, going to the coaching education space, building authority in this space takes time. So if you are wanting to build a course and launch it, you can't just work quietly on the back end, then turn on the lights and launch it and be successful unless you're someone who's already known. So I think at a certain, I mean, I just need to call it out. Like at a certain point, you just have to do the work and there's no shortcut for that. So I just wanted to make sure people heard that hiring, that's another thing I see. People think hiring is going to help shorten that track. And sometimes it actually does the opposite for people, or it's maybe not what they need at that time. So I
Yeah.
just wanted to say that.
No,
But
good point. That was good.
okay,
That was a
and
good
circling
thing.
back before I forget, because mentally I'm like holding on to it. How do I keep my head on straight? Great question. I am constantly revisiting my planning. So I very much plan out the year in pencil because I know things evolve and change, and I cut back if things are no longer serving me. Great example, I have some courses that are available. Initially, I was going to launch them this year, totally cut them out because this networking group is blowing up and it's a great funnel into my coaching business. And so why would I spend more energy launching a brand new thing, getting people to go through this whole funnel and all of that when I can show up to our networking meeting and odds are I'll probably sign a client from that. So therefore, I can just continue to grow that. And I had to kind of reestablish where I was putting energy and time. And I think being able to do that, constantly checking in to see what is worth your time, what is not, asking for help, whether that is an online business manager. And again, the right help where you're in a place where you're ready to lead that person and know that will take time. And then clear communication with your partner. I love working. He knows this. And so it's very much, hey, I have a late night. Here's what I'm doing, but can we do a date night tomorrow? Or, hey, I'm going to sit in the office and work for another half hour. Will you please come call me out after 31 minutes and say, you're done for the day? So things like that. And also being okay with not getting stuff done. So sometimes that means I don't post as often as I used to. But again, if I make a list of all my to-dos, I know what things are a must do in my business and I know what things to kind of let go of if there's seasons where I'm busy and I don't quite have the support to back up that need at that time. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, the partner part
Say
is
that 10
so
times.
important.
Yes.
I mentioned that I did a pop-up mini mastermind class in a community yesterday when my friend called me up for that and was like, hey, I was going to teach in the community tonight, but I really would love to have you tonight at 8 p.m. And I was like, hold on 1 second. I think I'm free and I think it's totally not going to mess up with our schedule. But I was like, hey, babe, 8 p.m. tonight. He was like, yeah, go ahead, do your thing. It allowed him to get some extra, work stuff done himself. Then we were able to kind of convene at the end of both of our stuff and an hour later and hang out on the couch and have that moment. But it's so important to have someone also to rely on to keep you in check, because I do that same thing. Like, give me 20 minutes. And if at 25 minutes I have not resurfaced, drag me kicking and screaming away from the computer, please.
Yeah.
And I do the same thing for him. And that is so important, especially when we talk about making sure we are giving ourselves that time for ourselves, not ourselves as the business person, but our personal life,
Right.
filling our cup first and fulfilling our personal life. And then also having the business, not letting the business run your life.
Totally.
So important. So many people miss that.
Yeah.
And end up burnt out, giving up, trying to skip steps and hire people to fill in those steps and wondering, well, why didn't that launch right? Well, you're not showing up in the right ways in the right places. And we could go on for millennia about that.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Oh, totally.
So we've talked about what got, the pinnacle moment, your
Mhm.
wall.
Mhm.
We've talked about how you've developed yourself over time and how that serves your clients and why the passion behind it all. And we've talked about, you have your podcast, which will have a link. Don't worry, guys. And your networking community, there's a link. And all of these things you have going on, your personal life, and how you're still showing up for yourself there, and how you help others do that as well. What, if you could possibly do this, really give someone that like 60 seconds of like advice to a woman entrepreneur that is sitting there with I have no idea what I'm doing, but I know I have something important to do, but I have no idea how to get started or about to spiral out of control. What is that 60 seconds soundbite from Kelsey? What is it?
Yeah, I would say if you're a service-based person, we honor those appointments. Someone books a photography session, a therapy session, a financial session. If it's on the calendar and that client booked it, we show up, right? So how can you apply that same methodology to your personal life and your relationships and have those non-negotiables where we commit to showing up the same way we do for others? And whether that is literally 10 minutes of journaling in the morning or reading 10 pages or whatever that thing is, plugging it literally pause right now and plug it into your calendar. Because we know if you can show up for other people in that way and you trick your brain into saying like we're going to treat this just like it's, a haircut service for Laura over here. But no, this is Kelsey time to journal every day. I'm putting it on the calendar and I'm committing to showing up. I think when you can plug it in, maybe it takes you a couple of weeks to actually do it, but step one's plugging it in. Maybe you say, okay, it's on there Monday through Friday. I haven't done it yet. Maybe I'm going to start with just one day a week. Maybe my Monday is when I'm going to do my journaling and I just start once a week and then from there twice a week and so on and so forth. I think when you can start to see that you're pouring from an empty cup and you look at it from that perspective, I think that can really change your world. And then that can expand to multiple things. Then that's not just you journaling. Now you're reading. Now you're not just reading, but you're also going on a walk. Now you're not just going on a walk. Now you're going to the gym. Now you're not just going to the gym. You're meeting with your girlfriends once a week, whatever those non-negotiables are. And I think it's important to have it for you personally, have it for your business, which most of us probably do. And then also have it for your relationships, which is not only your partner, but also your friendships. I think once you have like one or two non-negotiables for those that you're plugging in weekly, that's where you can achieve more of that balance and longevity. Even if it feels like you're in a busy season, we can all find 15 to 30 minutes to hop on a phone call or whatever we need to do.
We're all guilty of spending that 15 and 20 minutes scrolling on the
Yes.
thing that we carry with us everywhere we go.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of just putting those random 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there on the calendar. That's how my brain works.
Yeah.
It's not always like this every day at the same time, but it's looking at my calendar for the month, the week, and be like, all right, 10 minutes here, 20 minutes there. This is when I'm doing these different things. And sometimes for me, that spontaneity of like midday break, guess what? We're going to go do this right now helps my brain. So you can have certain things you do every day at the same time,
Sure.
but try to put those like, you know what? I'm going to go walk around the block. Like put in like a free 10 minutes to go do something for yourself randomly in your day. I think that's fun.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, I have free 10 minutes. I could just sit down and do nothing and just meditate and relax. I could do this or that. You have 10 minutes to be creative for yourself. I'm a slave to my calendar. So I do the same thing.
Yeah.
I know some people that hate that and they use different like Pomodoro methods where they have the timers. There's so many different strategies, y'all, for putting in that self-time and others' time and business time that works for everybody's type of brain. So I would, if the calendar methodology doesn't work for you, it's okay. There's other strategies out there.
Yeah.
I just want people to know that. Some people have tried the calendar strategy and have failed. And they tell me like, that doesn't work for me. I'm like, well, then find something else that works.
Yeah. Another thing I love is instead of saying I'm too busy for, I say that's not a priority. And that really sucks when you're like, working out, that's not a priority. It's like, oof, that's on me, because you're absolutely right. That time exists in my day in other ways, right? So the other thing I want to add to this is if you want different, whether that's like personal, business, whatever, if you want different, you're going to have to act different. And I actually, literally my newsletter to my community was this today. Like, you're going to have to get uncomfortable. You're going to have to try new things. You may have to give up that 30 minutes of Netflix for 30 minutes of a walk. But if that's your long-term goal, that's what it's going to take. You have to look at your whole day. And I treat my calendar like a puzzle. So I have all those non-negotiables every day just auto plugged in. But what I do is I look at the individual day, and maybe my walk that normally happens at 9 a.m. doesn't fit at 9. So that's where I literally will drag that appointment until it fits in like a puzzle. So I have like the parameters that exist, but I look at the day and I'm like, okay, I have to get these 5 things in for me today. Where does that fit in my schedule? And even though the time may vary, I'm still committed to showing up for me. And I think that's the thing I hope people take away from this.
Amen. Like, because we all have things that pop up, right? You have a doctor's appointment that you have to get scheduled in, and the only time available is at that same time that you typically go to the gym. And okay, now do I just not go to the gym, or do I just move that? You move it. You just slide it. That is so powerful. Kelsey, I know that we can literally go on for ages, but we're going to continue part of this conversation tomorrow. Actually,
literally,
guys, and I'm going to say tomorrow on this recording, but it's not going to probably be tomorrow in any type of way that this is published, because we both have different scheduling of where we are in our podcast releases. But no, if you're listening to my podcast right now with Kelsey, is that in the near-ish future or past, who knows? There was also an episode on Kelsey's podcast with me talking to her that was just recorded the day after this is recorded. If that makes any sense in the time balance that we are currently in sometime in the future. I'm
like, did we just go down an Avengers rabbit hole? Because it kind of felt that way.
Well,
love it though.
It was Inception. This is the theme of today, because I got a calendar reminder that we had this interview today. And like 2 minutes later, I had a calendar reminder about me being on your podcast at around the same exact time of day tomorrow. And I panicked. I'm like, wait, she's on, but that's today, but it's saying tomorrow. And my husband was literally looking at me like I grew another head, because I'm like going through my phone, like through my calendar, like, but it's today, but it's tomorrow. Wait a second. So then I literally text message Kelsey, and I'm like, today you're on my podcast, and tomorrow I am on your podcast, right? And you were like, yep. I'm like, okay, I can stop spiraling. Right?
See, new level, new devil, people.
And it was on the calendar, color coded. We just both use Calendly, and the notification came from the same place.
Yes.
But again, Kelsey, thank you so much for putting this on your calendar and sharing this time with me today. I appreciate you so much. And you guys, if you want to know more about Kelsey, every way that you can get in contact with her is listed in the show notes. And yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And listeners, thank you so much for allowing me to be here. As a guest, I just have to plug one thing, which is if you love this show, please take the time to leave a review. It's a lot of energy and work that goes into hosting a show like Laura does. So please pause and leave some feedback if you haven't yet. It helps so much. And I just know, again, how much work goes into it. So thank you, Laura, for holding space for me. Listeners, thanks for hanging out. And yeah, come find part 2 wherever it exists, whenever, wherever.
Part 1, we'll see. It's a race. Who's going to publish first? So,
yep.
Thank you so much, Kelsey.
Yeah.
And see you guys next time.
Sounds awesome.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Empowered Modern Women podcast. Again, your host is me, Laura Hearn, and this podcast is for women who are fed up with being held back by society's expectations. We talk about everything from career advice to health and fitness tips to help you live your best life. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit subscribe and leave a review. New episodes come out every single week to help you find the inspiration and motivation you need to become empowered and successful. Be sure to follow us on social media at Money Mindset by Laura.